Shalom, family. Today we are starting a new series called Ancient Command, Modern Misunderstanding. And today's question is, when does a day actually begin? Because this is something most people never question. We just follow what we've been taught. But before we can open the scriptures, we need to understand something. Not everything we've been taught came from the word. Some things came from culture, tradition, systems passed down over time, and when we let those systems go unchecked, they begin to feel like truth. Now think about this. This is one of the most basic things in life. Everything we do is built on it. When a day begins, when it ends, when we work, when we rest. But here's the question. Who told you when a day starts? Was it scripture or the system you were born into? Because if the foundation is off, if the foundation is off, everything we built on it will be off. Sabbaths, feast days, understandings of events in scripture. So today we're not going by traditions, we're going back to what was written, back to creation. So we're going to start today in Genesis. We're going to let the scriptures walk us through this. So let me get this started over here so I can see, and so can you guys. We're going to Genesis, and we're going to 1, and we're going to go to verse 5. We're going to start in verse 5. All right. So in verse 5 is when he tells you when the day begins. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 5. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So Yah defined the day using two transitions, evening and morning. Even is beginning of darkness, light is ending, darkness is beginning. This is where the day begins. Morning is the beginning of light. Morning is when darkness is ending and light is beginning. This is something that we need to, because I'm not going to lie, when the people started with the day begins in the morning, when the sun rises, the thing that they told us was, they was like, well, if you look at the scriptures, it says evening and morning were the first day, but evening until morning is only 12 hours. And it got me thinking, and this is why we're here today with this part 1 in this series. It's talking about time periods. We always like to, in 2026, apply our world with their world, and they're two totally different worlds, really, for real. We are so far removed from our culture, from our, I'm not going to say our history, but really to truly understand the history without the culture and everything, kind of causes conflict. So your first step is knowing that you need to remove yourself from trying to add the true Hebrew way into what we know today, where we're in captivity. So a full day includes the beginning of darkness, the entire night, the beginning of light, the entire day, and until evening begins again. That's what we need to understand when we're reading these scriptures. So when we go up to Genesis 1, we're still here, and we're going to read 2 down to 3. And the earth was out form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light. This is the order established. Darkness and then light. So why wouldn't we assume that this would be how it is for us today? So the structure of a biblical day. Now, if you're not talking about a biblical day and you're talking about a day in Babylon, well, in captivity, in Israel living in another nation amongst other cultures and so on and so forth. Evening um, is when the day begins for a true biblical day. Night continues. Morning is when the light begins. Day continues. Evening cycle is complete. That's why it said an evening and morning. It's not talking about actually evening until morning was the first day. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say evening and until morning were the first day. It says evening and morning together were the first day because evening is the start of the dark period and morning is the start of the light period. So we're going to keep on moving along, and we're the modern misunderstanding. Many believe the day starts at sunrise, or many believe that the day starts at midnight, and I can see that before the day starts when the sun rises. A lot of people are using that this is when work starts, is when the sun rises. It's just but we're going to ask ourselves why is this incorrect? If the day starts at sunrise, then the entire night already passed, which means you're starting the day in the middle of what y'all already begun. He established this already. So if your day starts at sunrise, then you're saying that he was lying when he said and evening and morning were the first day. You're saying that he messed up, and we all know y'all's perfect. He didn't mess up. Our understanding messed up. Evening and morning were the first day. Evening and morning, two different time periods, were the first day. So let's go over to Mark, and we're going to 16, and we're going to 2. Mark 16, chapter 2, and it reads, "And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came upon the sepulchre at the rising of the sun." It was already the first day before the sun rose. Do you guys see this? In the dark period, it was already the first day, which is Sunday of the week, Sunday, and it was very early in the morning, the first day of the week. They came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. It was already the first day before the sun rose. So, let's go. Sunrise marks the beginning of activity, not the beginning of a day. This is not what it's saying. And there is not one verse that says in the scriptures, sunrise to sunrise, morning to morning as a full day. We don't see that. You're not going to find that in the scriptures. Now, what the scriptures do say, what you can find is in the scriptures, and we're going to Psalms 113 and 3. Now, here it reads, Psalm 113 and verse 3. From the rising of the sun unto the going down of the same, Yahweh's name is to be praised. This is when you're up and moving. From the rising of the sun until the going down, it says Yahweh's name is to be praised. How can you do it if you're asleep? So this describes daylight only, not a full day. Now we're going to move over and we're going to see some confirmation in the law. We're going to Leviticus, or I should say the Torah. Leviticus 23 and 32. Leviticus 23 and 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the ninth day of the month at even. From evening until evening shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. So this confirms evening to evening, one full day. This is one full day right here. So some may ask, why say evening to evening if we already know this? What are we missing? Why would he be telling us this? Yah is not redefining time. He's making it unmistakably clear. So the context of the law, we know Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, all those chapters that Israel had just come out of Egypt. A different system, a different way of thinking. That's why he's saying it. He's making it clear. He's not redefining what he said in Genesis, which was an evening and morning was the first day. He's reestablishing his order. So there is no confusion, no mixture, no doing it your own way or anything. Even all the way down to Yahweh Shai. I'm not saying he repeats the day starts in the morning, but he repeats scriptures that were in the law. If you add it, when the Pharisees and the such and such were doing wrong, he corrected them with the law. He repeated the law. They knew the law, but he repeated it to them. So the pattern that we can see in scripture is Yah often establishes something early and then later explains it clearly. So let's see an example of this. We'll see an example in Genesis 7 and 2, and it reads, of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and and of the beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. So here we see clean animals, were known before the flood. This is before Israel. They knew the clean animals. But again, in the law in Leviticus, he goes over the clean animals again. He didn't redefine it. He just made it clear there. So to go from here, we're not going to read everything in Leviticus. Leviticus 11, I believe it is where you can find the clean animals. That's where he reinforces it. He goes over it again. So to sum this part up, evening to evening is not new timing. It's original timing made clear. He's making it clear to people that been stuck in captivity with a whole nother nation. So a biblical day begins when darkness begins, evening, not when light appears. This is what I'm going to say to those that are coming up with their own, obviously, their own doctrines. It's their own doctrine because they don't understand what it's saying in there. He said evening to morning. Why would he say that? If he didn't mean what he said, why would he say that? And then you do something totally different. So we're going to go to Ephesians 5, 6. Ephesians 5 and 6, and it reads, let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of Yah upon the children of disobedience. I want you guys to remember this. We're going to go to some more scriptures. We're going to find some more precepts about being deceived, because this is what this is deceptive, because it's plain in the scriptures. They believe everything else, but you don't believe when he said evening to morning was for the first day. This is the issue. Their understanding is the issue. So now we're going to Colossians 2, 8. And it reads, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ, after Hamashiach. Let's move over to Matthew 15 and 9. And it reads, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for the doctrines the commandment of men. Not everybody passed down, not everything passed down is truth. Some things are tradition, and somewhere in somebody's mind, they believe this and they pass this down. So when we go back to what was written, we see something very clear. The day was never defined by when you wake up. It was defined by the order Yah established. Evening begins the cycle. Morning continues it. Together, they form one complete day. And once again, when we see what happens when tradition replaces scripture. Something that was clearly established at creation It shifted by human understanding. Ancient command, modern misunderstanding, and this is exactly what this is. The day does not begin with light; it begins with the light. It begins before the light comes, and you can see that once you understand that. That's what made me understand it, is seeing that he's talking about two different time periods that have other time periods with them. You got evening, then you got full blown night. Evening is when the dark is becoming. It's becoming dark. Morning is when when it's becoming when the sun is rising and it's becoming light again. Those two different time periods. So the question is no longer what you were taught. The question is, are you willing to follow what was written? And with this family, I'm going to say shalom.